This is the Linefeed reading list for September 2010. Now, I've been a bit overwhelmed with the amount of decent mags around at the moment, so I've split this in two. So this is part one of two videos, and in this one I've just clumped together all the sort of fashion mags that come out this time of year, because there's all the biennials that come out in September, which makes it even more of a feast for your average maglophile. I'm going to start with W, which has had a massive redesign and I guess repositioning, if you want to use like dodgy marketing terms like that. It's got a new editor whose aim is to make it more relevant. And, you know, it's really funny. I kind of always liked W. I didn't really buy it much, but I sort of assumed it was like an industry mag because it didn't seem very full of sort of articles. It just sort of seemed to have this sort of really edgy photography, and it just seemed like an edgy sort of fashion mag, but probably not for everyone. I didn't realise it's actually just a general magazine that's out there. I actually thought it was some sort of industry thing. But this is part of the problem I think they've had in terms of generating revenue. So they've tried to inject a bit more sort of personality into the magazine by having more sort of in-depth features about people, like this bizarre feature about young London eccentrics. Again, it's just really interesting from an American point of view what London eccentrics looks like. I mean, to me, they're just like a bunch of sort of stroppy teens. But yeah, according to W, they're the cutting edge of fashion in London, which is the cutting edge fashion capital or something like that. As far as the redesign goes, it's a lot cleaner and less modern. I say that because they used to have some really sort of really contemporary looking typefaces, and some that were specially commissioned for them that were quite unusual. I say contemporary, they did look a little 90s, but they were still quite interesting. And what they've done is they've stripped all that out, and they've just got it's sort of like avant-garde, but it's not. And sort of serif-y, quite classic looking serif thing, which is sort of is stretched and condensed. But, I think it looks good. I think it's still a really good mag, and it's nice to make it's fuller and stuff like that. And that back section is really good too if you get a chance to check that out. It just expands on articles within the magazine. Moving on to Pop. This is, if you know Pop, you know the story. It started off as a Katie Grand magazine. She moved on to Condé Nast and then set up Love. And Pop was sort of left for a little while, and now it's come back as this sort of fashion art hybrid. And they're really wearing their art sensibilities on their sleeve, because they've got sort of a Cindy Sherman pull-out in this issue, which, you know, if you want to look arty, just stick Cindy Sherman in, essentially. Like, there's a lot of fashion magazines have pulled the Sherman card, and Pop are doing it now, though I still don't I don't sort of hate them for doing that. I do kind of like it. The thing that I think is really good about Pop is that they sort of separate everything out. There's lots of little bits to explore, like these sort of different stock and pullouts and different widths of pages and stuff, to make you feel like you're getting bits of lots of magazines in the one sort of thing, rather than, you know, another fashion editorial, another fashion editorial, another fashion editorial. And it's the sort of content varies quite widely. I mean, it's all sort of fashion and art related, but they sort of do their best to make it to enhance that feeling of sort of flicking from different things to different things. This saying that this did have a sort of vague theme of blondes, apparently, although I didn't really pick up on that straight away. And there's some really alien looking models in this section. I really liked it. It's almost like they took like a typical fashion shoot and just sort of skewed it in all sorts of strange ways, of these glamorously odd outfits and sort of accessories like little shrinky packets and stuff like that. I thought that was really, really good. Um, yeah, they've got a collaboration with Britney Spears. I don't really understand why Britney Spears is on the cover. Um, I mean, she doesn't. It's not really telling me any more about her. She's pretty much an empty vessel as far as I'm concerned. um, but because it's sort of got, is it Murakami? Is that how you say it? He's sort of collaborated on some photography of Britney Spears. So there's a vague Japanese look and feel to the front section of the magazine, which again is like they've really sort of got spot on with that sort of feeling that you get from some Japanese magazines in terms of the way it's designed. It's it reminds me of I can't think of the name of it. It's like some designy. It's like called Composite or something from Japan. I don't even know if that's still going or not. But yeah, I thought that was really good the way they managed to tie that in. So that's pop. Uh, we're moving on. I feel like I'm going to run out of breath again. Gosh, I'm an old man. 10 is a magazine I really like because it's quite, for a fashion magazine, it's actually quite readable. It's got some really sort of funny, quirky articles that they you can tell they have a reverence for fashion, but they can also not laugh at it, but sort of enjoy it in other ways. It's quite good. Having said that, this is their special anniversary edition, and they've decided just to fill it full of Tony Ward. Now, that's a kind of interesting idea. I can see why they went with it, but what you end up with is just endless gushing editorial about how good Tony Ward is, and by the time you get to the end of the magazine, that's enough. I don't need to see this guy ever again. It's like they've shot him and his friends from every conceivable angle. They've found every single photo. There's this really awful bit at the back with one of the journalists. I don't know if it's the editor or not. I hope not. Just sort of gushing about, Tony Wood touched me. Oh, you even see his genitals. Oh, it's just like, yeah. Yeah, but you can see now. I'm sure you're feeling it too. You're a bit like, well, I've seen everything I need to see of Tony Ward. Really, um, he does actually come across really well in the magazine. It's just a bit of oversaturation. Like he sounds actually quite informed about fashion, and I mean, tend do good good written editorial. So could even though it's the same guy on every page, it's still well written. It's just yeah, I'll be glad when when the next issue comes out. Still an interesting experiment. I meant to get the female one too. I'm not sure if they've done the same thing, but with a female model. I should really check that out. But it's got a similar, really nice sort of plastic screen printed sleeve to it as well. So when you pull it out, there's no text on the cover, which I thought was good too. Okay, Fantastic Man with a very baggy looking David. Oh, sorry, not David. I was going to say David Bowie. It's not David Bowie, is it? It's Brian Ferry. What a fool. Oh yeah, no, there was just showing you the Fantastic Man and Gentlewoman, the sort of companion magazine. It's the sister magazine to Fantastic Man. Fantastic Man, I do actually feel like, you can see they've actually referring to the Gentlewoman there. That's a picture of the cover. But I feel like they've sort of switched their attentions a bit from one magazine to the other. It feels like there's been just a little bit of love lost on Fantastic Man this time around. In terms of it just felt a bit flat. Design-wise, it was never very colourful, but it feels less colourful somehow. And there's sort of the quirky articles about glassware, men holding glasses and stuff like that, which is all very good. And I don't know what it was. The features are bad. It was probably actually the fashion editorial was a bit dull, I think. There's a bit at the back which I'll show you soon. Oh, that was really cool. That was the many hairstyles of Brian Ferry, which probably my favourite page, I think. It was really good. Oh, and this was about a guy wearing a suit a lot, who doesn't usually. Um, this was funny too. This is sort of recycled editorial. It's like some photography by Inez Lamsvoort. I'm so going to say that wrong, and you know who they are. Um, yeah, there was just some of their archival work reproduced in the magazine. This I wanted to point out because this is actually the new editor of W magazine that was at the beginning of the video. So it's still sort of very, I'm going to say zeitgeisty. Like they've managed to, catch the buzz of the new W by putting the new editor in the magazine. Yeah, this really annoyed me. It was just really dull, and I just think it could have been so much more interesting. It goes on for ages. Pretty much, they set up a catwalk show, which you can see a video of. I think it's on the Fantastic Man YouTube channel. If not, it's on their website. So this is an actual show that they put on, and this was their main fashion editorial through the magazine. And it's just, in the context of a fashion show, you can see why nobody has really done that before. Like, I can see why they thought it was an ace idea, but this was good too. This is their stockist page, which was just done as a big pyramid tower thing of names. But yeah, not so impressed with that issue. Whereas the Gentlewoman is actually loads better than the first issue. I was saying to someone though, it's a bit weird because I wouldn't want to. I don't feel like I'm their target audience. I think it's for older, intelligent women creatures, not grumpy old male magazine addicts. So as much as I really loved this issue, I sort of thought, oh, does that mean that it's probably not as good because it's not actually for me? It's meant for someone else. So this was a personal highlight because I'm a big fan of Julia Davis. She's really funny, and it actually quite informative because I didn't realise that she did a pilot for a new TV program earlier in the year. So I hunted that down after reading the article. This issue just is a lot warmer than the first one. The design's just being tweaked just a little bit to give it a little bit more character. So you get these sort of, I was pointing to some of the nice little weird paragraph breaks and sort of indented paragraphs and things like that. This was actually the first thing that caught my eye when I flicked through it too. It's this really lovely essay. Can you call this an essay? It's a photographic essay on apples. And this is very typical of the makers of the Gentlewoman sort of editorial style, is that they'll include a lot of fashion editorials, but then they'll break it up with some really nice sort of offside sort of things, like an article about apples. And this is a big article about those photographers, or the photographer and stylist team that I couldn't pronounce earlier, who are having a massive retrospective at the Foam photographic galleries in Amsterdam. So there's a lot of buzz around them at the moment. And also there's a book coming out on pretty much everything they've ever done ever, and I think it's called something like that. And I'm pretty sure it's designed by MM Paris, so it's going to look fantastic. I wasn't too sure about this editorial too, this poor broken woman on the side of the road. I know she was probably some amazing contortionist or something, but she did just look like there'd been a horrible accident, but she was still happy for some reason. This was nice too. This is just what do they call it? Sort of additional references or something. And it was all on different coloured stock, which was really nice. And then I think this was like meant to be their really sort of useful bit at the back, but it's just really lovely, quirky editorial. I think a lot of the energy from Fantastic Man was spent on the Gentlewoman this time around. I hope they can sort of even it out a bit more next time so that they're both just as good. And I think we're on to the last one, which is just huge, heavy thing. Like, part of me thinks this is how a fashion magazine should feel. It's like a brick. It's really good. and so much more interesting than and content full of really good content than stupid bloody American Vogue September edition thing. This is where the real stuff is. Um, and what can I say about this one? Apart from the fact that it's so thick, it's separated up into like numbered sections from 1 to 8. Um, and I sort of started picking sections I liked and sort of not the ones that I didn't like so much, which is good. There's so much content in there, you're bound to find something decent. There's been a bit of criticism of purple fashion because of it's very Terry Richardson. Like he shoots all the covers and he shoots a lot of the editorial, and it, he's of a time really, and I think there's a feeling that his sort of time is waning a bit, because you know what you get with Terry Richardson. I mean, apparently he's got some problem with his eyesight, so he does a lot of pointing and shooting, and it's all about what's the action going on in front of the camera rather than anything else. That's why they all tend to look a little the same. Luckily, he brings out sort of a certain characteristic in people, but I think even then, like it's becoming a bit samey. So, if there's any criticism of purple fashion, it's just that it's a bit like a Terry Richardson homage. This is funny too, really unsexy pictures of Mark Ronson. I mean, that illustration was really good, but it didn't look anything like him, but it was really strange, unraunchy pictures. I don't know if they were meant to be saucy, but this is one of the sections within the magazine. And again, a bit like Pop, it's sort of smaller on different paper, and it's like an insert, but it feels more like a sort of essay, like it's more cohesive within the magazine than what you get with Pop. And this is sort of the main fashion chunk. I think it's because of the Terry Richardson connection, I don't know, but there's an awful lot of nudity in this magazine, and I'm feeling a bit prudish. I don't know, it's just you sort of start thinking, wow, I've seen a lot of tits looking at this magazine. Maybe I'd prefer to see more clothes. That's just me being a dick, essentially, because the whole idea is that the magazine's got a bunch of stylists together, and they've picked their favourite item from the current collection. So in a sense, it makes sense, because a lot of the times the models are just wearing that one item. Like this, it's obviously this weird chest plate thing, or big furry trousers, whatever they are. The funny thing is too, it's sectioned off into each stylist's particular set of things they like, but then they're sort of intermingled too. This edition too has like a men's section. I don't remember if there was a men's section in the last one. Seems like eons ago. And again, there's various states of dress. Actually, like I don't think I am being prudish. There's a lot of just people not wearing any clothes in this. Luckily, they're all really striking photos, but it starts to feel a bit sort of American Apparel exploitive sort of thing going on. Just a bit sort of leery, and makes you feel a bit sort of yuck. Yeah. It's another section with Lou Dillon. Again, it's that sort of funny, sort of flash, leery sort of photography thing. But that was actually quite nice, that section, because it sort of was morphing all these sort of wooden sculptures into sort of human forms. And then we end with... Actually, no, this isn't the end. This is another section. This is their paparazzi section. I love this because they include like archival sort of paparazzi stuff with current stuff. So this issue, it's all sort of shots from Andy Warhol out and about on the town. Yeah, this end section is just like some guy who drew penises a lot. I still like it though. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, and so that's the end of part 1. Part 2 will be ready when I get to it, hopefully soon. But it's jam-packed full of really cool mags, so hang out for that one. And don't forget to visit the blog at linefeed.me. See ya. Bye.